Are you a fan of sea life, specifically sharks? Well, would you still be a fan of them if they started to adapt and overcome natural limits, becoming fans of humans themselves? Well, let's see if the human race has what it takes to endure and survive these changes occurring in nature as we try to beat the evolved sharks from under Paris. Our story begins on a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, specifically at the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Well, I say specific, but that mass of floating debris is so huge it could be anywhere within a 1.6 million square kilometer area. That's about 620,000 square miles for those who don't use metric. On this ship is a woman named Sophia and her crew of fellow researchers, including her husband Chris. They're out here studying the effects that the microplastics have been having on marine life, mainly focusing on sharks. One specimen in particular, which they named Lilith, is just about to enter the area according to the beacon they planted on her. So Chris and 3 others gather their equipment and head into the waters while Sophia and co monitor things from above. They get a bit distracted by the tragic scene of a deceased whale that got tangled up in some netting to the point that they didn't notice a pack of mako sharks swim up on them. This is odd though, as apparently makos aren't known to hunt in packs. Stranger still, they're all females and with abnormally large fins, but none of them are their target, who soon arrives next, stunning the divers with her mere presence alone. Lilith has grown since they last saw her from 2.5 meters to over a whopping 7 meters in just 3 months, more than double the average size for the species. The men want to return for safety, understandably, but Sophia insists they have to get that sample to understand what's going on here. Chris gets the sample successfully, but Lilith doesn't seem too pleased about being poked and prodded for it, and she lets them know this by begging to rip them all apart one by one. Not willing to just sit by and watch her team get gobbled, Sophia jumps in after them. A brave thing to do, but also foolish, as she has no breathing apparatus and is equipped with only a small harpoon gun and some goggles. Not sure how much that will help. She eventually encounters Lilith and fires at the beast, but gets caught in some netting attached to the shark as it swims away, dragging her to the depths below. The pressure from this event causes her eardrums to rupture. However, she's thankfully able to pass the quick time event and cut herself free, rushing to the surface. We now jump to 3 years later, where Sophia gives lectures to visitors of the local aquarium in Paris. Afterwards, she's met by a young woman named Mika whom she brushes off at first. That is until she mentions Beacon 7, Lilith's beacon. Apparently, this girl works for a non-profit group of ocean preservationists called Save Our Seas, or SOS, for short, and one way they do this is by disabling old beacons on sea life so that poachers can't locate them. However, when they found Lilith's beacon, they noticed it traveling from the Pacific all the way to the Seine River in France. They assume the shark is lost and confused and want help in rescuing it and returning it to the seas. Sophia has her doubts it's even possible and just heads home to drown her sorrows in snack food and relive the good old days by watching old footage of her crew and giving herself PTSD. But doing this does give her the resolve to actually look into the beacon situation herself, finally. The next day, she gets a call from the river police as they found a body, and Mika recommended her expertise to them in judging if it was caused by a shark attack. And yeah, it most certainly was. The police don't think so though, believing it to just be the work of a propeller blade. I think the teeth marks would prove otherwise, but alright, they need more evidence than a half-eaten body coming from the same location as a shark tracker. So Sophia and the cops start an expedition to search the waters. After arriving at the tracker location, 3 officers dive into the river while their leader Adil stays on board to monitor them. But before they can close in on the signal, Mika, who was watching from a distance, has her team cut Lilith's beacon because she's worried they will kill the shark if they find it. Between losing the tracker signal, seeing something big moving through the murky water, and finding some half-eaten marine life, the team rushes out the water and back to the boat. There, the sonar confirms that something distinctly shark-shaped was in fact in the water with them. Well, at least the police are believers now, but Sophia is mad about Mika disabling the beacon and tells her to stay out of this from now on. Was that the right thing to do? Well, let's review that and everything else we've seen so far. For the shark attack at the beginning, the crew should have realized that jabbing a metal rod into a creature might make it a little mad. But alright, maybe with a standard shark it would have just fled in fear. But normal or not, I wouldn't be taking my chances like this. I would be inside a shark, poking the rod through the bars for a sample, and ideally also wearing some shark-resistant chainmail. Better safe than out in open waters with no protection at all, surrounded by oddly behaving apex predators. Honestly, Chris had the right idea to abort the mission for safety once he saw the shark's increased mass. They could always get the sample later after getting the crew to safety. As for the shark hunting expedition, they too should have been better safe than sorry. Sure, there is a change, this is just some elaborate prank at the cops' expense, but I would once again rather be safe than sorry, and wouldn't go into the water without some sort of protection outside of a small harpoon gun. As for Mika cutting the tracker's signal, I think that was a terrible idea. Yes, if she had not, it could have unfortunately led to them killing the shark once it was found. But that could happen with or without a tracker. Also, there was still a good chance they could want to release Lilith peacefully once they saw she was really in the river, and if they wanted to do that, but the signal's off, it would be much harder to locate and actually help her. On the other hand, if they didn't find her at all in the river in addition to the beacon failing, they would have lost all credibility with authorities on this matter and lose any future form of help at all for removing the shark. There is no situation where this was a good idea. And Sophia thinks so too, as she tells Mika to stay out of this from now on because of it. After their initial encounter, Adil does some proper research on Sophia to learn about her tragic past and vast marine knowledge, and realizes how rude he's been for doubting her. He goes to formally apologize and invites her to come along to convince the mayor of the severity of the situation. This goes over about as well as you'd expect though. Politician in power doesn't care about risking innocent lives of people or an animal, and just cares that the triathlon is next week, claiming they can't afford to close the river down because money. We've seen this kind of thing already in the movie Jaws and other films that followed it. So with little time and no support from the higher-ups, Sophia and the police need to catch Lilith. Their plan of action is to use shark bait to lure her to some bridges where they can sedate and trap her at the port. Sounds simple, but things are about to get a bit more complicated. Ben, another member of SOS, shows up to reveal that she got Lilith's tracker working again, and according to it, she's in the catacombs under the city. That would be all fine and good, except that Mika and several other members of the group are heading down there as well in an attempt to use a sonar device to communicate with the shark and lure her to safety. Noble intentions, but this just became a rescue mission as well, now thanks to them, with dozens of people at risk. Their group is gathered in an enclosed reservoir area, with the only access by foot being one long, thin tunnel with waist-high water. Mika already has the sonar device set up and swims out into the middle of the water with it. Not sure what she plans on doing once the shark actually arrives or how they plan on getting it out of there. Guess she put as much thought into that as she did for her own safety, which is to say, none. The cops come and attempt to get everyone out, but it's already too late. Lilith is here. And to make matters even worse, she's not alone, having an offspring alongside her. The little one is friendly enough, swimming up to Mika and even letting her caress it. But Sophia warns that this is just going to make Lilith protective and attack. They all scream for Mika to exit the water, but she ignores them and carries on. Adil dives in to try and save her, but thankfully he's too late. Otherwise he would have been flung into the air with her as Lilith lunged out from underneath the girl and drags her down below to be shared with the young pup, ripping her in half like a wishbone. Rest in pieces. That huge lunge, however, has caused a big splash, knocking several bystanders into the water. A panic ensues, with everyone scrambling to climb out of the water or running towards the exit. This of course causes people running to slip into the drink, and those attempting an escape push and drag others into the depths with them. Some, like Ben, even fully drown because of this, unable to get a breath of air as they are kicked and shoved back into the water. The fortunate few who do make it back out often do so without all their limbs. This actually checks out with standard mako hunting behavior. In the wild, they bite the limbs or fins off of prey so that it can't get away, making for an easy meal for less energy. Makes sense that if they changed their sights to humans, they'd go for the limbs before a fatal strike. We cut to the aftermath at the hospital. Dozens of people being treated for injuries and missing limbs, and several not surviving long enough to share their tale. But hey, Adil at least tries to comfort Sophia by offering her some snacks. Yeah, that'll work. But if you think all of that wasn't bad enough, just wait. We are about to learn something even more horrific is going on. They call Sophia and Co back to the scene of the crime to show her the baby shark, as dead as the song meme of the same name, and she takes it back to the lab for an autopsy. Besides seeing what they already expected, that the shark has adapted to fresh and seawater, she also discovered that it was pregnant at just 3 months old. Apparently, they're not dealing with your average mako sharks anymore, but an evolved species that reproduces through pathogenesis, meaning each baby is born able to produce its own litter of pups in just a few short months, with those pups able to reproduce asexually in just a few months, and so on. At this rate, if even a single shark survives, they will spread and spread until they conquer all of the Earth's oceans, unless they are eliminated here and now. They figure that Lilith is using the catacombs as her nest and plan to blow it up. That's right, as if this movie wasn't already copying the homework of the film Jaws. It's now copying the homework of Godzilla 1998. Alright, that's a lot to take in, and that was a lot of life just lost. Could anything have been done differently? Well, first problem is the mayor, who ignored the severity of the situation. A simple solution to that would be to have a recording device or app ready for their conversation with her. Afterwards, we will have the evidence of them caring about money over human lives. This could be used to either blackmail them into helping or to hopefully just get them removed from office for someone who will actually help. But let's not kid ourselves, the next politician likely won't be any more helpful. As for the actual underground incident, Mika should have realized that playing with the baby was a terrible idea. Sharks are of course not as vicious or bloodthirsty as movies make them out to be, but they are still dangerous and powerful animals that should be respected, and regardless of species, any mother will turn into a raging beast if you mess with her young. For everyone else, I don't even know why they were there. They didn't contribute anything to the shark summoning and didn't seem like they were even planning on helping it be removed. Were they just there for a sonar communication show because they could have just watched someone stream that from their home? People should have realized this was a potential for disaster, even if the shark didn't attack. Too many people crammed into too tight of a space. But even still, if these people could have just kept a level head and realized they were safe out of the water and calmly helped those that fell in already, everyone except for Mika could have made it out of there alive and in one piece. There's a reason pools have a no running rule. No one needed to rush and fall, and they definitely didn't need to push and shove others in. But fear's got a fear, and stupid's got a stupid, and that's an average group of people for you. Regardless of everything that happened, they still had a solid plan of their own to lure, trank, and capture the shark. It's horrible what happened to the SOS members, but I don't see what's stopping them from still continuing with that original plan after the fact. Well, what's stopping now, though, is the mayor who, despite all the deaths and manglings that just occurred, still won't shut down the river for the triathlon tomorrow. Instead, she kicks the cops and Sophia off the case, hires the army for river security, and plays everything off as perfectly fine on the news, even twisting the rumor of a shark in her favor, claiming that if true, it could be a result of them having cleaner rivers nowadays. That's politics. But being off the case isn't going to stop Sophia, who convinces Adil and the other officers to still help her stop the impending shark invasion. They get some explosives experts from their bomb division, and plan to have everyone swim into the catacombs to plant charges, detonating them all at once to blow the sea beast to Kingdom Come. This should also cause a collapse, trapping any potential surviving creatures inside. The only odd part of this plan, though, is a 3-minute timer on the explosives. Not sure why they can't increase the time for safety, or better yet, just detonate them remotely from the surface. But oh well, it's a movie, we need a ticking clock for suspense, I suppose. To ensure the sharks are actually inside and stay in the catacombs during all this, they are also planting a sonar device that should draw their attention. Let's hope the sharks can swim there in 3 minutes or less though. Again, maybe increase the timer, guys. But alright, a solid and simple enough plan, let's hope it works smoothly. The dive starts off fine with most of the team getting in position. Once fully under Paris, at the heart of the catacombs, they ignite their flares for both light and a repellent. But what they illuminate from doing so horrifies them to their very core. Dozens of shark juniors all swimming around the area. This changes nothing about their plan, however, and if anything encourages them more than before to go through with their actions. Sophia sets up the sonar while Adil and his team set up the explosives. And just when they think they're all set, Lilith makes herself known, chomping down on one of the explosive experts and leaving his carcass for the little ones to snack on. The rest of the group gather in the center, repelling sharks around them until one member of the police force makes a dive for the detonator to start the timer, sacrificing himself in the process as he's devoured on the spot. While a feeding frenzy ensues on the man, the rest of them hightail it out of there, just barely escaping the explosion in the nick of time. Of course, in reality, shockwaves travel even further and faster underwater, and if that was enough to destroy sharks and collapse a tunnel, it should have taken them out as well. But let's suspend our disbelief and just be happy some of them made it. So the day is saved, and no one above Paris is even the wiser. We lost some good people, but at least the Evo sharks were taken out. Was there anything else they could have done differently to result in more survivors, though? Well, let's take a look back and wait. Why is there still 20 minutes left in the film? And what's that rumbling sound? Why, it's none other than Lilith, who not only survived the blast, but also managed to bust her way through the collapsed tunnel. And she doesn't look too happy about losing all of her children like that. And she lets them know this by flipping their boat sky high, gobbling up any of the officers that land back in the water. Sophia and Adil survive, of course, because they were the only ones wearing plot armor at the time, and Lilith's attention is soon turned towards the dozens of swimmers participating in the triathlon at this moment, an all-you-can-eat buffet for her. She very easily breaks through the small blockade installed and heads for lunch. Our heroes try to warn everyone, but of course are too far away to make a difference. Swimmers start disappearing one by one, and it doesn't take long for the onlookers to realize what's actually going. But just in case anyone needed to be clued in, Lilith reveals herself with a mighty leap from under one of the poor swimmers, gulping them down whole. Now we have a repeat of the last bloodbath. Everyone panicking and rushing out of the water, dragging people in or kicking others down further, people running and shoving each other in. Standard chaos. But the chaos is about to get turned up even further. The military rushes in and opens fire with everything they got, which may seem like a great idea at first, but the film has been subtly informing viewers that the Seine River has leftover bombshells in it from World War II that are still active. As Lilith dives deeper to avoid the bullets, she skims along the riverbed, dredging up some of those very bombshells, causing a massive chain reaction of explosives as bomb sets off bomb that sets off bomb all throughout the waterways. And the shockwave and falling debris caused by all this creates a massive tidal wave, flooding the streets of Paris. Sophia and Adil survive all this, because of course they do, and make it to the nearest solid surface they can find. Now, stranded in the wreckage that was once their city, they can at least rest assured that all of those blasts had to have taken out Lilith, right? Well, not quite, as we not only see a big mama fin swimming around, but several other smaller fins too, all circling our heroes now. And with that, the movie ends. Well, it seems like our characters got the bad ending. Now let's take a look back for real at anything they could have done differently. Already mentioned how the timers could have been handled differently. But other than that, I will once again say they should have had better gear. They've been facing a shark and now plan to go into a shark nest and still don't have any chainmail on. I'd take it over nothing if I was risking my life like this. Another thing they could have done is have a contingency plan, for either this plan failing outright or for something going wrong like it does in the film. They easily could have combined this idea with their original one and have some shark bait and either tranquilizers or weapons ready on the surface for if any shark survived or escaped. This may have been able to drag Lilith away from the triathlon swimmers and may have prevented the army from spooking her into explosive World War II leftovers. Speaking of which, if the police were well aware of the potential bombshells in the river, why didn't they make that common knowledge to the army as they arrived to patrol the area? Surely someone could have told them of the dangers lurking below. A simple memo could have prevented an entire city from being destroyed. Oh well, c'est la vie. It definitely feels like this movie's message was that our environmentally destructive habits as humans, such as creating massive garbage patches in the middle of the ocean, force nature to adapt and evolve in ways to counteract us. A way of warning people that we will be our own downfall if we're not careful. A very good and wonderful message, albeit a little heavy-handed and exaggerated here, but an important one to take to heart regardless. Care for yourselves by taking proper care of your environments for the sake of yourself and those who we share lives with. And with that said, thanks for watching as always, my friends. Take care and binge another one.